Yes, the real media.
KJAG Radio and KMA Entertainment, your source for entertainment news and interviews in Central and South Central Kansas. The best of the best are here, and we go above and beyond to bring you the most bang for your buck. Find us on the social sites like Facebook and Twitter. Log on to kjagradio.com and jiggyjaguar.com for more.
Thank you. Good night. So, Ron, tell me about your pieces that you've got on display over there at the Hutchinson Art Center.
Well, it's there's some recent work and some older work. There's sculptural pieces and also some things that go on the wall. There's some what I call disc forms and then also some drawings. So I tried to do kind of a sampling of what I do as an artist. Most of my work is fairly earthy, earth-related, kind of dealing with my own invented forms, related to the landscape and maybe the under landscape of this area, and using native materials.
Now the presentation is called Sampling the Soil.
Right.
Talk to me about that.
Well, the soil's always been very interesting to me because there's a lot of landscape artists, but not a lot of artists necessarily go, beneath the soil. And so that's kind of what I try to do, is maybe create invented forms or draw from that kind of imagery that you might see, when a new place of erosion occurs along a hillside, how it kind of exposes new areas, new rock formations. Yeah. So I kind of try to work with that a little bit.
Well, that's cool. Now you're mixing in ceramics, mixed in with all sorts of other things. Talk to me about some of the landscape pieces, and because it's interesting as an art lover, what you were able to do with all this.
Yeah, and I mean, in some senses, I'm a real tightwad because I don't pay a lot for my materials. I just go out and dig the clay and process it. I mean, it's pretty labor intensive, but for me, it's very satisfying. And a lot of the rocks I find are just things you might see in an outcropping along the hillside here in Kansas. Yeah. So I use a lot of limestone, and then also wood. Most of the wood is, things that have grown around here, either hedge if I'm really ambitious and want something that's going to last forever, because most farmers know how resilient hedge wood is. But then I also use other woods that I can come across. So I try to incorporate all those things. And then, sometimes I get a little tired of pushing and pulling and mixing the clay and things like that. So I need a little kind of time where I'm not as active. So that's when I kind of go to the drawings and create the drawings that use some of the same imagery, but just in a different format or media.
Now, what are some of the pieces that people need to check out when they're checking out the display over at the Hutchinson Art Center?
Well, there's a pretty wide range. There's a big piece in the center that was actually done initially for a special show up in Lincoln, Kansas, that was based on the idea of using canvas in your piece. And I had really never used canvas before. So that piece is kind of my investigation of that, where I put canvas on the base and actually drew on the canvas, so it translates some of the same things, but then used a big chunk of wood on the top that I then stained. Another one of my pieces that I really like is called Sentinel, and it's got a big kind of wedged limestone form with a base on it that has, for me, kind of a simple elegance, hopefully. I mean, it works fairly well. I like the contrast between the kind of rough base form and then the rather smooth sawed limestone that has nice angular formations.
Well, that's cool. Now, what one piece over there took you the longest to put together?
It had to be the first one I talked about, that canvas one, because there was a lot of battles. Actually, at one point, that along the strip of the canvas where now there's tar, it had big limestone chunks. And I decided I didn't like those, so I ended up chipping those off. And, just reworking it. And actually, when I was doing it for the Lincoln show, I couldn't quite get it finished. So it never got finished until after it was taken out of that show. So that's the most labor-intensive one. Probably one of my favorite pieces is a piece, and I can't quite remember the title off the top of my head. Remnant. It's called Remnant, and it has kind of a formation, a ceramic piece that's rounded and then has a lot of holes carved in it, and then a couple pieces of limestone coming up. I really like the balance of that because it feels like it's almost going to fall over.
Yeah.
But it seems to be pretty stable. It hasn't fallen over yet.
Now, talk to me a little bit about your background. You've taught at Bethany College. You've been the curator here at the...
Yeah, I'm the curator at the San Zane Gallery currently, and I did teach a couple classes at Bethany College. My Master of Fine Arts degree is from KU, and then before that I got a Master of Library Science at Emporia, but also worked in the art department a little bit, and then have 2 undergraduate degrees from Fort Hays State.
Wow.
And I'm originally from Denver, but a lot of my family is from north central Kansas, so
Yeah.
the Jewell County area, so that's where a lot of my roots are. And my sister still lives there, my dad lives there, so real strong connection to that area. And then I've been in Lindsborg, you know, as long as any place I've lived, so there's a real strong connection to this area too.
Well, that's cool. Well, talk to me a little bit about some of the pieces that people need to see here at the gallery here.
Well, we've got some great shows up right now. We have, of course, our namesake, Birger San Zane. He was a man who came from Sweden and really became one of the foremost artists of Kansas. So we always feature his work, but then we also have a special retrospective by an artist named Lee Becker, who's a local area artist that's been active for many years. And then we just opened today our holiday gift show, which is, you know, we invite artists to make kind of smaller things, maybe things that aren't quite so high priced, that people could give for gifts or buy for themselves. And then we also have a show of work by John Basher, who actually, Mr. Basher donated a lot of his works to us and gave us permission to sell some of those, so some of those are for sale as well.
That's cool.
Yeah. So
Well, I noticed that
it's
you
changing.
have a fountain out back. That's been there, what, almost a year maybe?
Well, it's
Maybe not
actually
even
been,
that.
it was relocated. We just went through a renovation, and so
Yeah.
part of that, we moved that fountain and then replaced it back where it was. It was originally given in 1935 to Birger San Zane by a Swedish sculptor, and who spent a lot of time in America too, named Carl Millis. And so originally it was at San Zane's house, and then when they built the gallery in 1957, they moved that over here.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for doing this.
Oh, my
and,
pleasure. Thanks for the
I
invite.
appreciate you letting us come into the beautiful gallery here. And the Art Center show in Hutchinson is through the end of November, correct?
I think November 30th is the last day, so it'll be
Okay.
up for a while, so you have a lot of opportunity to see it.
A lot of work. Well, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Cool, the curator here at the San Zane Art Museum, and go check out Sampling the Soil in Hutchinson, Kansas through November 30th. And thanks to him, thanks to Mark Rassett as well at the Hutchinson Art Center, and thanks for watching KJAG Radio.com.